Hi everybody, this is the baseball highlight, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, welcome back to the baseball highlight. I hope you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So I said I was going to talk about Shohei Ohtani to give you as much updated information as I can. I'm a little behind on this, but I think I'm going to give you some interesting stuff. This is something that happened on Friday, recording this video on Saturday. This is from CBSSports.com. I would mention I do some commentary here, so it's not just some information, but also my own commentary. I know one thing. Pete Rose is watching this very intently. He's watching this and taking notes. CBSSports.com. Shohei Ohtani investigation. What questions MLB is trying to answer and the key rules in play. MLB formally launched an investigation on Friday into allegations around Ohtani and interpreter Ippei Mizuhara. On Friday, Major League Baseball launched an investigation into Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani and the alleged massive death, quote-unquote, committed by longtime friend and interpreter Ippei Mizuhara. Mizuhara is said through a series of wire transfers to have stolen upwards of $4.5 million from Ohtani to cover gambling loss. Now, here's the thing. We know how much he was being paid by the Dodgers. The interpreter was between $400,000 and $500,000 to be the interpreter of Ohtani. Okay, so if he was making, say, a little less with the Angels, just for example, how was he able to cover the $4.5 million with the bookie? And that's what the $4.5 million went, was to this bookie. So how is he able to cover that when he's only making less than $400,000 a year with the Angels? You have to ask yourself that question. It's one of the many unanswered questions here. Quote, Major League Baseball has been gathering information since we learned about the allegations and found Shohei Ohtani and Ippei Mizuhara from the news media. MLB announced Friday. Earlier today, our Department of Investigations began their formal process of investigating the matter. I would mention, baseball has had an ancient way of conducting these, I call it ancient, not because it's archaic, but because they have these ancient mechanisms that kick in when gamblers start skulking around Major League clubhouses and anyone associated with Major League teams. So I don't believe for 1 second that Major League Baseball didn't know about these gamblers skulking around the interpreter. MLB has not placed Ohtani on administrative leave or the restricted list, so he remains an active player. I would also mention, no one is saying Mizuhara committed a crime here. And no one is saying Ohtani committed a crime here. However, gambling in California, particularly sports gambling, is against the law there. It's not like it is in New York and other states. It's illegal there and it's illegal in Texas. Just so you have an idea. Just to be fair. Mizuhara is said to have placed bets with Matthew Bauer, an illegal bookmaker in California. Bauer is under federal investigation, and Ohtani's name surfaced while the Los Angeles Times conducted its own investigation into Bauer. The story broke on March 20th, right after the Dodgers beat the Padres in the first regular season game of the MLB season in Seoul, South Korea. Mizuhara was with Ohtani and the team on Wednesday before he was fired. There was video of Ohtani talking to the interpreter at the end of that game. Now MLB is investigating the matter along with the federal government's ongoing investigation in the boiler. Here are the most pressing and unanswered questions as the league's investigation gets underway. First, is either of Mizuhara's stories true? Alternatively, why did Mizuhara tell two different stories? Initially, he said he went to Ohtani for help, and Ohtani agreed to pay the gambling debts. Soon thereafter, Ohtani's lawyer said no, the money was stolen. Mizuhara then backtracked and said Ohtani was not aware of the payments. Two accounts could not be more at odds. Why did the story change, and is either story true? Now, I would say, how many times have you been out there, are watching this video, have had someone steal your credit cards? And you get a phone call, you get an email from your credit card company. Or you have a lot of money in the bank and somebody or you've taken out a lot of money out of the bank, and they alert you, they want to verify whether you have approved it. So the fact that the first payment, say, was $500,000 to the bookie, and I'm sure Ohtani was told by his bank that there was a large amount taken out of his account. He had to have known that that money went out of his account. It's just common sense. Did Ohtani send the payments is another question. Sports betting is illegal in California, so if Ohtani did send the payments to Boyer, even unknowingly, he could find himself in trouble with the federal government. More like the state government. This could explain why the story was changed from Ohtani helped out his friend and paid his gambling debts to the money was stolen. Ohtani's lawyers may have feared the initial story put him in jeopardy with the feds. It's like I said, different states have different laws. Furthermore, MLB Rule 21 expressly forbids players and team personnel from even associating with illegal bookmakers. Ohtani sending the payments to Boyer would qualify as an association with an illegal bookmaker. The penalty for violating Rule 21 is at the discretion of Commissioner Rob Manfred. I would mention the reason that baseball is so stringent on gambling, and baseball goes back to the Black Sox, which is the 1919 White Sox, who threw the World Series against the Cincinnati Reds. They got in league with bookies, most famous Arnold Rothstein here in New York, but he was obviously doing all kinds of shenanigans in Chicago, and they went on trial, believe it or not. That team played in 1920. They played the entire season in 1920. If I remember right, they finished second in the league, and they finished second in the American League that year. But what was interesting is they went on trial. The 8 men out went on trial, and they were found not guilty by a jury of their peers because somebody sued them because they lost the bet, and they sued the White Sox, and they could have went to jail, but that didn't happen. So they were found innocent. But when they brought in the first commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, he banned them for life. And they're the original players to ever get banned from baseball. And obviously, if you've seen the movie 8 Men Out, it chronicles what happened there. It's not exactly as you would think. There's a lot of stuff they kind of left out. But there's certain things that was true. The one thing they did leave out was that they made it seem like the trial happened right away. No, it happened the following season. Like I said, they played the whole entire season in 1920. But so baseball's had this rule here, and they're very stringent. There is a plaque over every clubhouse throughout all professional baseball, in minor leagues and the major leagues, that you cannot gamble. Now, Pete Rose is ineligible for the Hall of Fame because he put himself on that ineligible list. The deal he made with Bart Giamatti, who was the commissioner at the time, said that Major League Baseball would not put out any information about it, and Pete would take a permanent ban. Well, when the meeting was over, Pete complained that he didn't bet on baseball, and then Major League Baseball said no, and they put out the Dowd report. And all that stuff, he basically broke his agreement with them. And for 35 years, he's been complaining that he wants to come back, but he put himself on an eligible list, and commissioners since have not reinstated him. Now go back to Ohtani. I also would mention about Pete Rose. He gambled a lot in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, but because he was one of the biggest names in baseball and was chasing the hit record of Ty Cobb, they weren't going to punish him. But once he became a manager, and it's got to a point where it was too much, and he wasn't a player anymore, they had to do something about it. Did Ohtani place any bets himself? Now, I would mention, just an aside, Pete always said that he didn't never bet on his team. He never bet on baseball. Or he didn't bet on his team. He never gambled on his team. I don't know if I believe that. I think if you were gambling and Pete was making certain moves, I don't know. Did Ohtani place any bets himself? Players and team personnel are forbidden from placing bets on baseball and softball, even legally. They can legally bet on other sports. However, Misahara says he only bet on the NBA, NFL, NCAA basketball, and international soccer, never baseball. it wasn't baseball, why is the people that work for Ohtani so stringent on saying that he didn't have anything to do with it? Who knows? I think you probably figure out there's possible baseball bets in here. Obviously, the league will investigate those claims. After all, Misahara's employment gave him access to inside baseball information that could potentially be used to place favorable bets. Would make sense, right? MLB's investigation will no doubt look into whether Ohtani placed any bets himself, legally, illegal on baseball, or on other sports. The league will investigate it all. For what it's worth, Misahara has said Ohtani has never gambled and thinks gambling is terrible. Gambling is a sin, in my view. According to ESPN, MLB Rule 21 is posted at every big league clubhouse. Betting on baseball is a massive no-no. Can MLB compel Ohtani and Misahara to talk? Well, the league will surely request interviews with both of them, though their cooperation is not guaranteed. In Misahara's case, he's no longer employed by a team, so MLB cannot force him to talk to their investigators. During an interview with ESPN, Misahara did say, "Obviously, this is all my fault, everything I've done. I'm ready to face all the consequences. That does not mean he will speak to league investigators, however." As for Ohtani, he's a member of the MLB Players Association. The president says he can refuse to speak to investigators because the criminal investigation is underway. Ohtani is not believed to be the subject of the investigation. No one is saying he's broke the law, and no one has said Misahara broke the law. But again, can't play sports bets in California. And MLB could argue he does not have the right to refuse a cooperation under those circumstances. In short, the league cannot force Misahara to speak to investigators, and the MLB Players Association will have a say whether Ohtani must cooperate. Will Ohtani be disciplined? That's the most interesting thing. It's impossible to know right now, but it depends entirely on what the league's investigation turns up, and also the federal government's investigation. Criminal charges regarding payments to Boiler would certainly open to Ohtani up to MLB discipline, though they are not required for Manfred to hand down a suspension. All right. Now here is the rule for MLB Rule 21. Okay. Any player, umpire, or club, or league official, employee who places bets with illegal bookmakers or agents for illegal bookmakers shall be subject to such penalty as the commissioner deems appropriate in light of the facts and circumstances of the conduct. Any player, umpire, club, or league official or employee who operates or works for an illegal bookmaking business shall be subject to a minimum of 1 year suspension by the commissioner. For purposes of this provision, an illegal bookmaker is an individual who accepts, places, or handles wagers on sporting events from members of the public as part of a gaming operation that is unlawful in the jurisdiction in which the bets are accepted. Nothing herein contained shall be construed as exclusively defined or otherwise limiting acts, transactions, practices, or conduct not to be in the best interest of baseball, and any and all other acts, transactions, practices, or conduct not to be in the best interest of baseball are prohibited and shall be subject to such penalties, including permanent ineligibility, which includes the Black Sox and Pete Rose, as the facts in the particular case may warrant. Now, one thing in this, I think back in the 70s, back in the 80s, Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle were suspended for a year because they were working for a casino and they were working for teams. And at the time, the way the law was under MLB rules and under the, and obviously casinos back then were looked at very differently. MLB suspended both of them because they were working for the Yankees. I believe maybe Willie was may have been working for the Mets. I'm not 100% sure, but they were both working for teams. So this does happen. I don't know if Ohtani will be suspended. I would be surprised if he was, but this certainly hurts his reputation in a major way. You cannot doubt that for a second. A lot of stuff is very murky. This whole idea that the interpreter had access to the money is something very peculiar about all this. So, I will keep you up to date. So if you're interested in this stuff, hit that subscribe button. It'll be a fairly regular thing. I don't know, as much as the information comes out, and this is the biggest name in baseball and one of the biggest athletes in the world, and I will keep you up to date on this channel, the Baseball Hut 2. So thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2.